It can't be a hate crime. It can only be a love crime.
Talking about openly defying the Constitution, saying he's considering running for a third term, despite the 22nd Amendment limiting a president to 2 terms. He's also ramping up his trade war. Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce has the latest. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, George. Well, this would defy the Constitution, but this morning President Trump isn't ruling out seeking another term as president. In some of his strongest comments yet, President Trump says he's considering his options to serve a third term in office.
It's so funny you guys are saying it's a hate crime. I'm literally white Chinese, which means it can't be a hate crime, okay? I'm white Chinese, dog. I'm Chinese in my heart, in my mind, in my soul, okay? I abide by Maoist thought every step that I take.
Office, a breach of the Constitution's 2-term limit for presidents.
I don't want to talk about it. I'm just telling you, I have had more people say, please run again. They said, we have a long way to go before we even think about that.
In a phone call with NBC, Trump saying, quote, there are methods which you could do it, including possibly urging his vice president, J.D. Vance, to run and then cede power back to Trump. The president saying that's one method, but that there are others, too. But a third term would defy the 22nd Amendment of the Constitution.
Oh, it's so funny the way that these guys approach the subject matter when they're like, well, this is unconstitutional. It's like, what has he done that's constitutional? Every night Trump goes to bed and while he's tweeting from the toilet, he's wiping his ass with the Constitution. And you guys are like, well, you know, this is illegal, sir. Yeah, a lot of stuff that he's doing is unconstitutional. Virtually everything he's doing is unconstitutional. It's kind of the entire point of Trump 2 is seeing how far you can go with the shredding of the Constitution. It's kind of everything that we've done thus far, isn't it?
Which says no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. When asked to clarify, Trump doubling down, saying, I'm not joking, but then adding, it is far too early to think about it. Overnight on Air Force One, Trump declining to respond when asked point blank if he's planning to leave office in 2029 and refusing to comment further on specifics. It's an idea the president and his allies have publicly toyed with for months.
I've raised a lot of money for the next race that I assume I can't use for myself, but I'm not 100% sure because I don't know. I think I'm not allowed to run again. I'm not sure. Am I allowed to run again?
Amending the Constitution to run again would require 2/3 approval by Congress and then ratification by 38 states. Democrats sounding the alarm. Congressman Dan Goldman saying this is yet another.
Yeah, we can't amend the Constitution for anything good, by the way, just for this. We can't do that for anything else, by the way, okay? God forbid. Only for our dear leader, our glorious president, America's own Recep Tayyip Erdogan, dude. Holy moly.
Another escalation in his clear effort to take over the government and dismantle our democracy. Now, this all comes as President Trump this week is poised to upend.
Dems would vote for it just to get Obama. I know, and that is like the terrifying thing that I want to talk about here, okay? If you grew up anywhere outside of the United States of America, outside of like Western Europe, for example, if you grew up anywhere in the third world, in a developing nation, in a second world country, whatever, okay? Outside of Western Europe and the United States of America or Canada or whatever, you know exactly what's going on. It is happening in broad daylight in front of our eyes once again. Okay. And a lot of Americans, on the other hand, cannot comprehend what's going on or are just completely checked out or think it's awesome. And today I'm going to be talking about that because there's a new YouGov poll that showed that Republicans especially do not care about due process at all. Like, not even a little bit. And it's very funny because they don't understand what due process is because when directly questioned about it, they're like, yeah, okay, that's not a great idea. Americans broadly don't comprehend the damages of eroding due process. One of the best parts about the American process in general. I I am horrified at how stupid most Americans are. It's crazy. I'm horrified at how stupid they are. Um, I'm horrified at how angry and resentful the Republicans are to a degree where they are advocating for such things. It's really messed up. But yeah, Democrats allowing Donald Trump to potentially overturn the term limits on presidential runs in an effort to slam back Obama into the race is one of the most idiotic things I've ever thought about, and that is precisely why I think Democrats might do it, because they're fucking stupid.
Global trade, promising to unleash those sweeping reciprocal tariffs he's dubbed Wednesday Liberation Day. Now, the scope of these tariffs.
Stop calling Americans stupid and educate them. Brother, I do that every day. I try every day. I try every goddamn day of my existence, and I don't know, man. I feel like people are very resilient, very resistant.
And how punishing they will be remains unclear. But the president overnight promised to be, quote, generous. But economists, of course, warn that American consumers will ultimately pay the price for this, that costs could rise on everything from produce to electronics to cars, of course, as Trump's 25% tariffs on all imported cars and auto parts are also set to go into effect later this week, George.
Yeah, and that is hitting markets around.
You're rich. Why haven't you fixed the American education system yet? You're right. It's because I don't want to. Yeah. I'm actually gonna go ban for ban with Bill Gates in terms of like rebuilding the American education system as he has destroyed it. Because me and him, we can go ban for ban, you know? We can go M for M. Right? Chatters don't understand how numbers work. I know. Like virtually every billionaire, including very famous ones like Bill Gates, and now the entire administrative apparatus is single-handedly working in the direction of abolishing the Department of Education and destroying American education, a project that has existed in perpetuity for multiple decades before I even came to the United States of America. And you think me, a no-motion, comparative broke boy with respect to the likes of, you know, most millionaires and certainly billionaires, I'm gonna fix it on my own. You got it. It's funny, people think like, I guess like there's a true overestimation of how much money I have. Like y'all really think I got like multiple M's, you know what I mean? Multiple M's in the bank account. I'm talking like 50, 60, 100. And it's funny because obviously that's not the case. But even if I did, it still wouldn't be enough. You know that, right? Like if I had $100 million, it still would not be enough. Elon Musk has so far spent $220 million on this election cycle, and he's still the wealthiest guy on the planet, even though he lost multiple billions from his net worth. And y'all are over here being like, yeah, one guy. One guy that gets voluntary subscriptions from his chat that doesn't even farm. $280 million Elon used in this last election cycle. You're so funny. A funny way to approach this. Yeah. Voluntary donations in the form of voluntary subscriptions in the form of $6 a month, or a free one in the form of a Twitch Prime. And one day we'll be able to go M for M with the Bill Gates of the world. If I have $50 million, it still wouldn't be enough. And you claim you're a socialist? No, ironically enough, I'm saying that like that level of unimaginable wealth that I will never have, okay, 100%, that level of insane wealth is nothing. It's not even a drop. Like that's how far out the money and the systems that are designed that we're talking about. And it's so funny that people will come in here and be like, why don't you just save the world? Yeah, I'm trying, dude. This, for me, for someone like myself, this right here, what I'm doing right here every day is in comparison to like spending money on, if I were to spend every dime I had, it would be infinitely less effective than what I do on a daily basis in front of the camera. That's precisely the reason why corporations with multiple M's and B's sometimes, you know, billions of dollars of revenue come to me and they say, hey, can we use this for ourselves a little bit? And in most circumstances, I say no. Let's
On
continue.
the world. Meantime, the president in that interview also made critical comments of Vladimir Putin.
He did, George, and this is a real change in tone from the president, voicing frustration with Putin. Trump saying he is, quote, very angry and, quote, pissed off that Putin has been criticizing Ukrainian President Zelensky's credibility, something, of course, Trump himself has also done. Now, going further, Trump says he will put more tariffs on Russian oil if they aren't able to reach a ceasefire deal, and he feels Putin is to blame. Those sanctions have proved to be little deterrence in the past, and President Trump does say that he and Putin are likely to speak sometime later this week, George.
Mary Bruce, thanks.
You said you were not joking.
Just in, Trump asked point blank if he was joking about possibly seeking third term. And he's going to say, I'm not joking. And it's going to play itself out in the exact same ways that it always has. Trump's going to say, I'm not joking. I'm being so for real with you. And then every one of his dumbass fans are going to be like, duh, yeah, based. Third term, based. How about a fourth one? How about a fifth one? Put him in a vat. Make sure that he survives. Put his brain in Neuralink. We need it. Based. Trump should keep serving until every Guatemalan is out of this country. Based. You know? But in any case, you know, and then all the Republicans are going to be like, oh, he's just joking. Please don't pay attention to that. Yeah, just like he was joking about Project 2025, just like he was joking about Project Esther, which the media didn't really cover that much. But yeah, he was just joking about Project 2025, except he's doing it. So I guess it's not a joke.
About a third term, about possibly wanting a third term. Does that mean you're not planning to leave office on January 20th?
I'm not looking at that, but I'll tell you, I have had more people ask me to have a third term, which is in a way it's more.
Look at this scumbag smiling ear to ear. Oh my God.
Term because the other election, the 2020 election was totally rigged. So it's sort of a fourth term in a certain way. I just don't want the credit.
He said, I technically ran the country in 2020 as well. It was rigged. So I'll do a fourth term. I'll do a fifth term. Why not a sixth term?
Biden was so bad. He did such a bad job. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm popular, if you want to know the truth. I think I'm popular because we've done a great job. I think we've had the best almost 100 days of any president. And most people are saying that. And it's an honor. We're bringing back our country. We're respected as a country again. And we're strongly respected. And people are amazed. I was with some very important people today, and they said that they've never seen a turnaround of a country as fast as this. Even look at our...
Dude, no one thinks this. Like, even his diehard fans that... Like, the only people that still think this, I think, are Asmongold fans who are neats themselves, so they don't care about the stock market or they don't care about anything. You know what I mean? The crypto people are, like, supposed to be the diehard loyalists here, and even they now have paper hands on Trump, okay? I have friends that like are in those spaces that constantly send me the crypto guys being like, yeah, hey guys, I don't know, I don't mean to be an alarmist, but like it kind of seems like Trump is fucking everything up. Like the people that think he's popping off and he's killing it, that number is getting narrower and narrower. It's getting smaller and smaller every single day. He has done 0 positive things so far. Like you are losing. First of all, the markets are crying every day. So there's that. But then even the crypto markets are crying every day. So they don't like that either. Like everyone is kind of upset, I think.
Border, we have nobody coming in. And you can come into our country, but you have to come in legally. But we have nobody coming in to our country. It's almost shut down. They've never seen anything like this.
At an appropriate precedent limits a president to 2 terms. Is it your understanding that they have to be?
I don't even want to talk about it. I'm just
because like the 2 things you can't fuck up is the bag for the wealthy. He's doing that with the stock market, and also price of commodities for the average Joe. I was talking about this with my dad last night. Like we were talking about the tariffs, right? Because we're trying to figure out like why he's doing this, and like he's trying to bring up the overall net revenue generated through tariffs back to like from I think like what 4% overall net revenue generation to like 8%, and it's funny because like in that process you are going to raise the cost of all of these goods, right? And when you do that, when you raise the cost of regular commodities, it's over. The American project is done. That is the last thing that holds the Amerifat empire together. Okay? The moment that an Amerifat can't fucking buy a new television that is like marginally better with a little bit of bells and whistles on it for $200, $250, but instead has to get it for $400, so he has to put that purchase off for a year, is the moment that they bring the guns out. Okay? So this entire tariff process, if it causes inflation, and it will cause inflation, because I read, I look at I look at Financial Times and Reuters and the reporting on the matter, and Bloomberg, where they go to China and they talk to the Chinese producers, and they're like, yeah, we'll pay 50% of the tariffs. It's fine. We'll lower our prices a little bit. But that means 50% is still being paid by the American, the American importers, which means that the overall cost of the good is going to go up. That is going to carry over to the consumer. That's not something that the American consumer is going to like. As a matter of fact, here's proof in the pudding. Donald Trump is president. Inflation under Biden and the cost of living crisis is literally the reason why Americans were like, I don't even care if he says he's going to deport every Guatemalan. He's like, my best friend is undocumented. My dad is undocumented. I'm still voting for him because, I don't even care if my dad gets deported, but in the process, like eggs are cheaper. I will do it. I will be on board with that. That's the one thing everybody cares about. Americans are very selfish. Americans are selfish as fuck. Dude, you really think that's all? There's tons of people already in that situation right now. Poor families unable to afford housing, let alone treats. Yes, that's my point. It's not just treats. It's like basic goods. But the treatlerites are the ones that have the most motion. The treatlerites are the Republican Party's base of support. We're not talking about the working poor. The working poor gets shafted regardless with no hope whatsoever. I'm talking about the treatlerites. The suburbs will cry tears of blood.
Telling you, I have had more people say, please run again. They said, we have a long way to go before we even think about that. But I've had a lot of people.
I'm telling you, growing up, shit was expensive. Everybody didn't have everything. Trump thinks we can go back to that, but that's nuts. Yes, that is. And that's only nuts because you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, especially when things being relatively cheap, relatively affordable is precisely what holds this entire process together. Okay? That is what stops Americans from rioting. That is the only thing that holds this society together is the ticker tape. I'm telling you right now, that is the only thing that stops Americans from rioting. The moment that things are no longer as affordable as they were, and it hasn't gotten to that degree yet, I'm telling you right now, it's getting there, but it's not fully there, okay? When we get there, you will see. I'll give you the example that I always use. We told Americans to stay indoors. We'll pay you. Just stay indoors for a little bit, please. You're going to die. We don't have a vaccine. We don't know what this fucking disease is. And they literally went to the state capitals with weapons because they were like, if I can't get my fucking haircut and my Twinkie, I will kill you. I will kidnap you and I will kill you, elected representative. What do you mean? People still carried resentment in places where they never even shut down. As a matter of fact, I think people carry resentment more in red states where they didn't even shut down. They were angry at the behest of fucking blue states where people were wearing masks. They were fantasizing about this like Chinese-style zero COVID policies being implemented in fucking California when that wasn't the case either. And people were upset on behalf of California all the way from fucking Arkansas. It's like, dude, you never even had a shutdown. What is your grievance? Shut the fuck up. And they still talk about it. Like, imagine, you're in South Dakota. They never closed down. And you got chatters from South Dakota whose parents are still talking about the COVID shutdowns and how devastating it was. It's like, what did you shut down? You didn't even shut shit down. Yeah, like with immigration, doesn't affect me, but I see it on TV. Yeah, this is the resentment and anger of relatively comfortable people that don't like the instability that they see on television, and they're stupid enough to believe everything they see on television. That's it. It's called empathy, Hasan. Yeah, empathy. Yeah. The average Ohioan has a lot of empathy for the average Californian. What are you talking about? I mean, I know you're joking, but goddamn. Yeah. The only time America has class solidarity is on the boundaries of reactionary thought. There's no, which is ironically not class solidarity anyway.
I want to talk about a third term now because no matter how you look at it, we got a long time to go. We have a long time. You know, we have almost 4 years to go. And that's a long time. But despite that, so many people are saying, you've got to run again. They love the job we're doing. Most importantly, they love the job we're doing.
Yeah.
So you said you were upset with Putin. Would you say your relationship with Vladimir Putin is
job we're doing? Nobody loves the job he's doing. That's just so funny. There's just like, who's saying that, bro? Who are you talking to? Fucking Witkoff? Is that the only guy you're talking to? Navarro? So much love. People love the job we're doing. Everybody loves it. My favorite politician, Asmon Gold. That's his name. He loves it. He loves me. He says, I'm based. I don't know what the kids say. Kids say based all the time. That's right. He's apolitical. He loves me.
It's lowest point right now.
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's going to go back on his word. You're talking about Putin. I don't think he's going to go back on his word. I've known him for a long time. We've always gotten along well, despite the Russia hoax. It's a hoax created by Clinton and Schiff and all of these lunatics. And that really was a dangerous point. That was a very dangerous thing they did to this country. It was a pure, unadulterated scam, hoax. But no, I think he'll be okay. But if he isn't, I was disappointed in a certain way. Some of the things that were said over the last day or two having to do with Zelensky, because when he considers Zelensky not credible, he's supposed to be making a deal with him, whether you like him or you don't like him. So I wasn't happy with that. But I think he's going to be good. And I certainly wouldn't want to put secondary tariffs on Russia, but if they were put on, it would not be very good for them. We put secondary tariffs on, as you know, in Venezuela, and it's had a very strong impact on Venezuela. You know that every ship just got out and they left. A lot of them left. They dropped the hoses right into the ocean and they left. They didn't want to be there for a minute because they didn't want those tariffs to catch on, or they didn't want me to see them there. So the Venezuela secondary tariffs, all secondary tariffs are very strong, because essentially it says if you disobey our orders, you cannot do business in the United States of America, and that's the cash cow.
Will that apply to Chinese companies buying Russian oil as well, if you plan to go ahead with those?
So if, in the case of Venezuela, as you know, China pulled up anchor and left. They were there, they had 2 ships there, and they left. They left empty. They didn't want to take a chance. No, we're not playing games. Okay, any other questions?
Will you clarify, are you planning to leave office January 20th, 2029, or are you saying you might not?
Go ahead, any other questions?
Question: His team surely understands that once goods are unaffordable, people are going to riot. They must have a plan for why they do the tariff shit. What if he subsidizes goods for the time being? I don't know. I think he maybe thinks that he can just like bully corporations to not raise their prices or something, without any sort of like legal restrictions. Legal restrictions such as like price caps or anything like that. Maybe he thinks that is what he can do. He can get away with. It's not a secret. It's not a secret that Americans, or at least like business owners, are like genuinely scared of Trump. They're already caving. Even the most woke, quote unquote woke, most liberal parts of the American society, like college campuses, colleges in general, are caving to Donald Trump right now, with Columbia, with Harvard, all these places. Like if they're not even putting up a fight, then business leaders are never going to put up a fight against Donald Trump. Yeah, I mean, he's saying this. This is what he's saying. He's going to tell the automakers to not raise their prices in response to tariffs. He's like, eat away at your profits. It's weird. It's a weird situation. And I've said this before, but it's like, Trump is the guy who could potentially get away with doing this, if that makes sense. He's the only guy I can think of that has like that level of motion and that level of threat power. I don't know if they'll follow through on it. I doubt it, but
legal scholars
who knows? Here, Trump's third term could actually happen.
Raising concerns after President Trump said he's considering a third term. The 22nd Amendment explicitly limits a president to 2 elected terms, or 10 years, saying, quote, no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice, and no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of the president more than once. For more on that, let's bring in ABC contributor Kim Whaley, legal expert and professor at the University of Baltimore Law School. So, Kim, that was a lot of words that I just read, but break this down. Is there any wiggle room in here, in the language you see in the Constitution, for President Trump to seek a third term?
Well, Diane, there's always wiggle room for creative lawyers. And I think the argument is that the word elected to 2 terms maximum means literally elected, not served. So the argument he's saying is that he can serve more than 2 terms, so long as he's not elected at the top of the ticket. For example, if he is elected as a vice president, J.D. Vance as president could resign and he could move to the position of president. That's not being elected. The problem with that is the 12th Amendment says specifically that if someone's ineligible.
Bro, this is literally Erdogan shit. I'm not even kidding. Dude, Donald Trump, I think Donald Trump might be an Erdogan appreciator. Okay? This is straight up like 1-to-1. Oh my God. It's like Putin, Erdogan, Donald Trump, okay? Putin is the guy who wrote the theory. Erdogan is the one who put it in application in the terms of praxis. And Donald Trump is making a shitty copy of it. It's crazy. This is, oh my God. How are people not recognizing what's going on, dude? It's like, this is the new method. I think, I talked about this before. I think they see China's rise and they learn the wrong lessons from it, right? At least in America, where they look at China and they're like, well, these guys have so much motion. They can do whatever they want. They have complete control over like the entire government. They can just build, miles and miles of high-speed rail if they choose to do so. Like no one can really say anything about it. And they look at that situation and their takeaway is just like the wrong lessons. Doors open. Hello? Hello? Yeah, door's open. Guys, groomers here.
Eligible to be president, they cannot be a vice president. But at the end of the day, this doesn't really hinge on what the Constitution says. It's more on, if the Republican Party decides to put him on the ballot on a state-by-state basis, who's going to stop that process? There's no mechanism. If Donald Trump is willing to push the boundaries of the Constitution, if the Republican Party doesn't come in and stop him, I think this is this is feasible. This could actually happen.
Now, many Trump allies, including Steve Bannon, have pointed to the Constitution not using the word consecutive when defining presidential terms. Is that a loophole?
I think that's a pretty weak argument. I mean, it doesn't say anything about it having to be consecutive terms. And if you think about it as well from an originalist standpoint, right, a conservative standpoint, and you think about why do we even have the 22nd Amendment? It was because Franklin Delano Roosevelt served 4 terms in office or was elected 4 times, and people from both parties didn't like that idea. There had been many attempts since the founding of the Constitution to put a cap on presidential terms, and they did that in 1951.
Now, just a few minutes ago, I asked Republican Congressman David Kustoff if he would support Trump serving a 3rd term. He didn't say yes, but he also didn't say no. What happens if the president tries any of these tactics?
Well, that interview I heard, and I think it's good news that he believes it would take a constitutional amendment to allow that. But if he got on the ballot, I don't know that the Supreme Court.
Good news. Good news that he still recognizes that there are legal hurdles that he must overcome instead of just bouldering through it, which he is inevitably going to do. Good news. You don't take Kai to a place to get groomed? No, mobile groomer. He comes to me. How do people not connect the dots he was setting up? He isn't a Putin puppet. He's an admirer of how he constructed his dictatorship. I think that America looks to a country like China in general and realizes that it's virtually impossible to compete against a country that has that level of power and that level of motion. The part that they don't recognize, however, is that China is a ginormous country, much larger than the United States of America. How do they have this level of awesome power? It's not because of authoritarianism. It's because they also have been able to produce results for the Chinese people. And they don't understand that. They don't understand that at all. They do not comprehend this. Without high-speed rail, without rapid urbanization, without rapid development, without China becoming a competitive global superpower after a century of humiliation, they would have so much unimaginable instability. You cannot control 1 billion plus people by simply crushing their spirit. Okay? You have to do a carrot and the stick. If it's all stick, it's not going to work. And this is something that American leadership does not understand. They think, nah, just all stick, no carrot. It's fine. All stick, no carrot is India. Carrot and the stick is China. All stick, no carrot is India.
Would kick him off. We saw this in the last election. I believe Section 3 of the 14th Amendment made him ineligible because of January 2021 and the insurrection. But the Supreme Court said, we're not going to stop the Republican Party from choosing who they want to be at the top of the ticket. So with lots of things that are happening with Donald Trump, the question is who.
Isn't there definitely authoritarian elements of the Chinese government, or am I being too biased? No, of course there are. That's why I said there's a carrot and a stick. Of course. First of all, every government is authoritarian. That's what governments do, okay? There are different ways of establishing, there's different mechanisms of establishing like whether or not something is appropriate in terms of rules and regulations. But of course the Chinese government is authoritarian as well. Of course. And in some ways it is more authoritarian than the United States of America. Okay, this is 100% correct. This is why I always say that there is a degree of censorship in China that does not exist or did not exist in the United States of America until recently, and America is moving in that direction. Instead of doing all the cool, fun, good things that the Chinese government has done, that plays a major role in the Chinese population's attitudes towards the government being relatively positive, regardless of the suppression of speech, for example. America refuses to do any of the benefits and only want to do the bad shit, only want to do the social repression. Yeah. It's ironic because anti-Chinese propaganda, for example, dictates that in China, if you say something about Xi Jinping, if you call him Winnie the Pooh, they come in and they disappear